Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's the new Planet of the Apes movie that's just been out at the cinema that I've finally got around to seeing. And so I love that trilogy that came before this, Rise, Dawn, and War. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. So I was highly anticipating this movie. I was really excited about it. I'm also really high on the director Wes Ball, whose previous movies to this was just the Maze Runner trilogy, which I've always really rated quite highly. I never read the books, and I'm not really into most of the young adult novel adaptations, with the exception of one, The Hunger Games, which I still think is the gold standard of that ilk. Yeah, most of them are absolute crap. But the two that stand out for me are, as I say, Hunger Games, which I still think is a gold standard, and The Maze Runner. And I think Maze Runner just took some flack, really, for the fact that it came out around that time. But I really liked it, and I thought Wes Ball did a fantastic job of building that world, that post-apocalyptic world. So when it was announced that he was going to be taking over from Matt Reeves and doing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I personally thought it was an excellent choice. I thought as long as they stick with the same effects company and the same way of doing the effects work, keep Andy Serkis on board and all those people, all those guys, then they could be onto a real winner here with Wes Ball at the helm. And I feel like that opinion was justified after having watched the film. I really liked this movie. Now, I've only seen it once, but there is the potential on a rewatch for it when it just comes to these 10 movies. Who knows what we get in the future. But with regards to the 10 movies that we have out now, my top two are set in stone. But this one does have the potential, I think, on a rewatch to go up to number 3. I don't think it's perfect. There are certain things that kind of, and it was mostly near the ending. To be honest, I really enjoyed most of it. A lot of people are saying it's got pacing issues, and I hear that all the time. It's becoming one of those critiques that's actually starting to piss me off, because it feels like people just say it about that pacing issues. All right, explain to me what you mean by that. Tell me where it's slow. Tell me where these issues of pacing bring it down, because I had no pacing issues with this. I thought it had a really great story, following a really good central character. You're coming off the back of a character like Caesar, which is such an iconic character, such a well-loved character, such a well-rounded, well-written character that had a complete arc. It's next to impossible to come off the back of that, introduce a new character, and expect us to really hook into them in the same way we did with Caesar. I think they do as good a job as you possibly can do here of making that happen. We follow this new character, and he's got all these issues with with his dad. He's trying to impress his dad, and he's kind of becoming a man, essentially, or an adult ape. He's kind of getting to that stage in life where he's no longer just a young whippersnapper. He's got to prove himself as an adult. And that's when everything goes to pot. His village gets ransacked. Everything goes to pot. And then he has to, he loses everything, essentially. And it's like, okay, what does he do now? Does he step up to the plate and prove himself? Or does it overcome him? Now, obviously, if he's not going to step up to the plate, there's not going to be a movie. The movie's over. So I don't think it's I don't think it's a spoiler to say that obviously he steps up to the plate. He goes on a journey. He does some stuff, but having all that stuff at the beginning, where we see this family dynamic, where we see how his village works, where we see where he fits into that village. We have all this stuff between him and his friends that gives us a sense of who he is as a person, what he means to the different people around him, the different apes around him. Now, when I hear people saying it's got pacing issues, it takes ages to get going. No, it takes its time to build character. which is what I want in a film like this. There's so many blockbuster movies like this that don't do that groundwork, and people complain and say there wasn't enough character in it. There's no character development. I don't care about these people. I don't care about these characters. And it's like, I know, right? Because they didn't do the work to make you care for them. They do that here. And then when they do, people start thinking, pacing issues. Yep, piss off. No, there's no. I personally don't find any pacing issues here. I think the pacing is just fine. Thank you very much. The only thing that really jumped out at me was a few little niggly bits, like like, would that really happen, or like, really, that's a bit of a stretch, but that only happened like a couple of times. But the big one is, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but there's something that happens at the end. We find out about a particular group, and they're doing something, and they gain access to something, to a piece of equipment that has long since been defunct, I guess. And my problem is that, well, look at the state of that thing. There ain't no way in hell that thing is working. It's not fit for purpose. There's a certain aspect to that technology that, given the fact that it's not there, that technology would no longer work. And this was literally like in the final moments, and because the film ended on those moments, it ripped me right out of all of the great work they'd done leading up to that moment. But that moment aside, if you push that to one side, everything else up in there is just really great. It's a really good, again, commentary on society, on legend, on, if you like, religious texts, things like that, or religious figures, cultural figures. You think about what we know. I mean, not in the modern day where we've got all the technology where we can see who someone was because we have video of them. We have radio of them speaking and giving their opinions. We get a sense, essentially, what they genuinely were like. But if you look at, like, figures much older in history where all we have of them is what was written about them, and the legends that are built up around them, and it's like, what's true, what's false, how do we test it, how do we work out what's true and false, how do we work out whether to put too much stock in what this person says and what that person says. And it's a great look at how legends are born, and how those legends' truths are twisted for the sake of somebody else trying to piggyback onto that legend and become a part of it in their own right, in an unearned way. It's got a lot of meat on its bones, as has all of these. All 10 movies really, but particularly for me, these more recent movies. So yeah, I loved this. Again, I've only seen it once, so I'll be very interested to see where this lands after a couple more watches. But I really enjoyed it. It was just really well defined, really great story, really great characters that they took the time to build up, and I am sold. I'm sold on Wes Ball as a director. I'm sold completely now on this franchise, and I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait to see where they go. I know it's supposed to be a new trilogy. The first part was great. Let's see what they do with the next two. Bring it on.